It ain't talking about the five whatever you call it pilgrimages to Mecca or Islam. You know, it's talking about the laws that are in the Bible. They've transgressed every law in the Bible, changed the ordinance. They changed everything. That's why some things you can't trust these devils on. You got to research it. You know, whenever they say something, you just can't take it for face value. You got to research it. Broken the everlasting covenant. So they took the Bible and basically just destroyed it, you know, as far as the minds of the peoples are concerned. But as far as the book itself, the book is still intact. That's why the Lord had to raise us up, beginning with the elders that came before us, like Abba Bivens, Masha, Ariyah, Yaiquab, on down the line through Elder Tahar and down to the rest of us, you know, to be able to put everything back in its proper perspective, because the so-called white man wasn't going to do it. If the Lord never raised his prophets back up to teach the things the right way, the so-called white man wasn't going to do it. These damn so-called Jews, these Amalekites, they definitely wasn't going to do it, because they're the wicked. All right, so now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of I had a few other scriptures here to go into, but I think I might save that for another time. I have another scripture here in Acts. Let me just get that real quick. Acts chapter 14, verse 12 and 13. Let's see what that says. Acts 14 and 12. It says, "And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker." Now basically, let me read that again. "And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker." So these nations were worshiping these things, and then you had Israelites, which these Israelites are the people that Paul and Barnabas went to. They were worshiping the same thing. So they were worshiping these the sun, the moon, the stars, the same things that the Most High said for them not to worship. He said don't worship these things. Matter of fact, I'm gonna hold this right. I want to go to the book of what is that? Deuteronomy 17. It says 17 and 2. It says, "If there be found among you within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy power giveth thee, man or woman that hath wrought wickedness in the sight of the Lord thy power, and transgressing his covenant, and hath gone and served other gods, and worshipped them, either the sun or moon, or any of the hosts of heaven, which I have not commanded." All right. So I mean, this if you read on down, it's going to tell you what the matter of fact. I read on down. It says, "And it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, and inquired diligently, and behold, it be true, and the thing certain, that such abomination is wrought in Israel, then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die." So that was it. That was a penalty for doing these things. It says, "At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is unworthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death." And the so-called white man even get these laws out of here to help him with his wickedness, but he still doesn't reverence the Bible. All right, now there's another one in Deuteronomy 4, but you know, you brothers can look that up when you get a chance. All right, now I want to go back to Acts 14 and 12. And you know, you brothers excuse us sometimes. Sometimes we be speaking, and you know, in your mind you have the right scripture to say, but then sometimes when you say it, you know, like I noticed that earlier in the show, I called for the book of Nehemiah, and I meant the book of Nahum. You know, and sometimes other brothers do the same thing. You know, but you know, it doesn't matter, because we always put it up so you brothers can see. You know, so you know, excuse us for that, brothers. Alright, it says, "And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius, because he was a chief speaker. Then the priest of Jupiter," so you even had a priesthood of this wicked pagan society, or this wicked pagan worship. You know, like Elder Gabar had brought that out years ago, that you have a priesthood of wickedness on the left hand side, and you have the priesthood of the Most High, which is what? The Levites, which eventually is going to be the whole nation of Israel, the men of Israel. Alright, so it says, "Then the priests of Jupiter, which were before the city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people." So this is just an example, just to show you that you had these type of things going on back then. But these so-called Jews, what they did was, when they took over the land of Israel, and they took over our nationality, they took over our identity, but then they put a spin on it, which was that demonic spin, which is the worshiping of witchcraft. Now I want to go from there to the book of Second Maccabees, the 6th chapter, and the 1st and the 2nd verse. All right. Read a couple more scriptures, then we're going to end this lesson. Second Maccabees 6:1. Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers, and not to live after the laws of the Most High, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter, Olympius. Now remember, when you go through the history of Saturn, right? Supposedly Saturn was a god that ate his children. They also call him Kronos, Dionysus, and all different other type of names. And he was supposed to be the god that was eating his children, you know, because he didn't want to be dethroned. And then his mother, Jupiter's mother, hid him away. So then eventually Jupiter took over. You know, that's the bullshit myth. So eventually Jupiter took over. That's why by the time it got to the Romans, to the Greeks and the Romans ended up calling the main god Jupiter, when before that the main god was Saturn. You know, according to the bullshit Greek mythology, or the pagan worship of it. And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of the strangers, as they did desire that dwell in the place. You know, so that's just another point, just to let you know that they were worshiping these gods. All right, got a couple more here, and then we'll end the lesson. This is the book of Acts, the 19th chapter, and the 35th verse. All right, it says, and when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, Ye men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is the worshipper of the great goddess Diana, and of the image that which fell down from Jupiter? You know, just more proof that they were doing these things. And I believe this scripture here I'm holding here is Mark, the book of Mark, the 13th chapter and the 14th verse. Alright, Mark chapter 13 verse 14, and it says, but when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understandeth, then let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains. Which, you know, that was dealing with the Romans back then, and they also their idolatry, you know, which one of the main gods that they worship was Jupiter. You know, but these so-called Jews today, what they have today is the veneration of Saturn. That's why they worship the Sabbath on Saturday. And this will be the last scripture. I'm sorry, it's in the book of Maccabees. Pretty much you brothers know these scriptures, some of you brothers, but some of the newer brothers may not know. So, you know, we're doing it for them also, as well as you other brothers. This is a book of First Maccabees 1 and 54. Now the 15th day of the month, Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. Alright, so that's how eventually, you know, the Israelites fell, you know, from being Jews, because some of them went into that worship and basically lost their identity. Alright, so with that, you know, we're getting ready to end this. But I just want to, you know, just make this one mention real quick, that you brothers out there that's just new into the truth, you know, these shows are mainly for the more advanced brothers. And you brothers that are not ready for this, don't worry about it. The main thing you got to learn is the name of the Most High, the name of Yahushai, who Yahushai came to die for, who the Israelites are, and things of that nature. You know, if you can't get into this right now, don't even worry about it. This is something, you know, just some extra gravy, so to speak. You know, that we you know, certain information that we find, that we give out to brothers that are ready for the meat. You brothers that are still in the baby stage, just stick to the milk, you know, and just, that's the main crux of this truth anyway, is the milk. You know, who the Most High is, who his son is, what their names are, who Yahushai came to save, you know, who the Israelites are, you know, keeping the laws to the best of your ability, you know, things of that nature. Alright, so with that, I'm going to end the lesson, and I hope you brothers learned something, and now you know why these devils worship the Sabbath on Saturday, because they're worshiping Saturn, because they're nothing but Luciferians, they're nothing but the devil, and the Most High is about to destroy these devils soon, because what did the Lord say? Before he'll destroy them physically, he's going to destroy them spiritually, which is through this word. So with that, I say shalom.